Zainab was the first child of 5 children. Mr. and Mrs. of course were her parents and were of a very modest background trying to make ends meet. Her mother Mrs. Amina of course was a housemaid for one of the richest families in Lagos. Her father was a plumber. With their meager earnings it was barely enough to cater for the needs of their 5 children. Zainab was naturally endowed with intelligence and beauty that made heads turn and hearts race. Beauty with brains was her nickname in their little town. In her family she was seen as their ticket out of abject poverty. Zainab wondered the day when she would finally be able to dress fancy, spend money without a care in the world and change her family's lives for the better. It was out of sheer good luck she was able to go to school. And if care was not taken, immediately she graduates she would be married off to any of the suitors her parents choose. They may not even be up to her taste. She may be lucky to marry a rich man. If he was handsome and young, that was a bonus. But that was not a vision she envisioned for herself. She dreamt of so many great things for herself, and making money was also part of the goal. So her education was her ticket out of the hard life she was living. She was ready to achieve success at all costs and show her parents what their daughter was made of. She prayed on a daily basis she would come across an opportunity to get a scholarship to university. She was already in her second year in senior high school. She helped her mother after school by selling food in a wheelbarrow around town. With her beauty and wit she sold out quickly, and with the little proceeds she made savings. She knew it was enough for her to go to university, but she still persevered hoping that the Lord will come true for her. One day on her way back from her public school, she saw a flyer on the floor about a scholarship to a prestigious secondary school. It was an essay competition. Top 3 winners will receive full scholarship till their conclusion of high school. She was ecstatic. This was a God-given opportunity she came across which will enable her to get access to a university scholarship overseas. But little did she know that this opportunity would change her life from how she knew it forever. She secretly registered and wrote the exams. Then she waited to get feedback from the organizers. While all this was happening, somewhere in another part of Lagos, Chief Is, an illustrious and influential business tycoon, just concluded a conference meeting in his office and was on his way out when he received a call from his son's school. The principal called to inform him of the success of the school's essay competition and the candidates they were to select. Chief Is was one of the major trustees of the school and he was the major sponsor of the competition. He has his own reasons for sponsoring as many even as he could. And they obviously went deeper than having a good reputation or just an act of goodwill. Something deeper and perhaps darker. Chief Isa's only child and son, Kelechi, was schooling in Brentwood High School, one of the most prestigious colleges in Lagos. It was known for excellence and quality. The best part was their affiliation to renowned scholarship boards and elite universities outside the country, thereby enabling students to form powerful networks and connections which are very useful for their families. After his phone call with the principal, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Phase 1 of his plan has begun. Kelechi, who had just returned from his long vacation from his grandmother's place in the village, was in his room happily reminiscing on the beautiful memories of a well-sent holidays. Unlike typical rich kids who usually trolleyed abroad to various picturesque locations, flaunting their wealth and affluence only to resume school basking in the admiration and envy of their fellow classmates, Kelechi, on the other hand, was different. He enjoyed spending time with his grandma, who was too energetic for her age, doing things he loves while enjoying the quiet and peaceful ambience of the village, away from his father's constant demand of perfection and living a standard of life that was never his just to impress his. He hoped he will make a difference this upcoming new school year, as this is his last chance to be free, live on some of his own terms before responsibilities come knocking around the corner. One sunny afternoon, as Zainab returned from her errands, all sweaty and tired, she was met with the vibrant and happy face of her younger brother, Ahmed. "Welcome, Sister Zainab." Ahmed cheerfully welcomed his sister Zainab as she came back from the market. "Or what happened this one that you are very excited?" Zainab asked, wondering what she had missed. guess what? What? You got the scholarship. Stop playing pranks, are you really serious? Yes, I am. Zainab leapt for joy. All her sleepless nights and months of anticipation had finally paid off. This was a big step in the right direction. And she would take control of her destiny and craft out the future she so desired. Spending every bit of savings, she made grand preparations for school resumption. Buying the best she could afford within her level and appear as smart and neat as possible. She didn't want to look shabby. The long-awaited day finally arrived. Zainab's heart tottered as she walked into the grand gates of Brentwood High School. The red brick walls seemed to mock her patched shoes and second-hand uniform. A scholarship had brought her here, a ward away from the dusty streets of her neighborhood. Hers and her parents' sacrifices had given her a chance at a better life, but the pressure to excel was large. The whispers of her classmates didn't help. Who's the village girl? One murmured as Zainab tightened her grip on her backpack. Kelechi walked into the same school with an air of confidence. His chauffeur dropped him off at the entrance, where he greeted a group of friends. The son of one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city, Kelechi was used to being the center of attention. He glanced at Zainab briefly, as she passed by him, her shy demeanor contrasting with the polished crowd around him. Little did he know, this quiet girl would soon turn his world upside down. As Zainab's first week at Brentwood High was a whirlwind of lectures and stare, her brilliance shone in class, thereby earning her grudging respect from some and jealousy from others. One afternoon, as she struggled with her locker, Kelechi approached her, a teasing smile on his face. "Need help?" he asked, leaning casually against the metal doors. Zainab hesitated. She had heard of Kelechi, the charming rich boy who always had a crowd. "I'm fine, thanks," she replied, not wanting to owe him anything. But Kelechi wasn't deterred. "You're the scholarship student, right?" "Zainab." His question caught her off guard. "How do you know my name?" she asked, frowning. "I pay attention," he said with a grin before walking away. Zainab couldn't help but wonder if this encounter marked the beginning of something she wasn't prepared for. Kelechi couldn't shake the thought of Zainab from his mind. There was something about her quiet strength and the way she carried herself despite being an outsider in their privileged world. At lunch, he found himself glancing at her table, where she sat alone, absorbed in a textbook. Zainab noticed his stares but pretended not to. She had been warned about boys like Kelechi, entitled and arrogant. But there was something disarming about him, something that made her curious. Still, she reminded herself of her priorities. Her father had always said, "Focus on your books. Everything else will follow." That evening, Kelechi looked her up on social media. Her profile was sparse, but the few posts revealed glimpses of her life, family, dreams, and a fierce determination to succeed. He smiled, realizing that Zainab was different from anyone he had ever known. When their science teacher announced a group project, Zainab hoped to work alone. But fate had other plans. "Kelechi and Zainab, your partners," the teacher declared, earning surprised murmurs from the class. Kelechi smirked. "Looks like we're stuck together," he said, walking over to her desk. Zainab sighed. "Let's just get this done quickly," she replied, trying to hide her discomfort. They agreed to meet at the library after school. As they walked, Kelechi realized just how intelligent Zainab was. She explained complex concepts with ease, her passion for learning shining through. "You're amazing at this," he said, genuinely impressed. Zainab looked up, surprised. "Thanks," she said softly. For the first time, she saw a different side of Kelechi, not the confident rich boy, but someone who was genuinely interested in understanding her world. Working on the science project forced Kelechi and Zainab to spend time together, and their differences became less intimidating. Kelechi was surprised by Zainab's sense of humor, hidden beneath her serious exterior. She, in turn, was taken aback by his curiosity and willingness to learn. One evening in the library, Kelechi asked, "What's your dream, Zainab? Why do you push yourself so hard?" Zainab hesitated, unsure if she could trust him. But something about his tone felt sincere. "I want to be a doctor," she finally said. I want to help people like my father, who can't afford proper medical care. Kelechi nodded thoughtfully. That's admirable. I wish I had a dream like that. My father wants me to take over his business, but I don't know if that's what I want. For the first time, Zainab saw vulnerability in Kelechi. Their worlds were so different, yet their struggles weren't entirely alien to each other. Word of Kelechi and Zainab's partnership spread quickly. Their classmates whispered as they passed, some mocking Zainab for aiming too high. She's trying to climb the social ladder, someone sneered in the hallway. She thinks she is now a somebody, but she doesn't know that we know her type. She better settle for what her hand can reach. Zainab tried to ignore them, but the words stung. Kelechi noticed her discomfort and confronted his friends. If you've got something to say about Zainab, say it to me, he said firmly. His defense surprised everyone, including Zainab. You didn't have to do that, she said later. I wanted to, Kelechi replied. You don't deserve their nonsense. Despite her gratitude, Zainab couldn't help but worry. Kelechi's attention was drawing unwanted scrutiny, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for the consequences. At home, Zainab's father noticed her change in mood. How's school, my dear? He asked one evening. It's fine, Baba, she said, forcing a smile. She didn't want to worry him with stories of bullying or distractions. Meanwhile, Kelechi's father, Chief Is, was growing suspicious of his son's recent behavior. You've been spending too much time with that scholarship girl, he said during dinner. Don't forget who you are, Kelechi. Kelechi clenched his fist but didn't argue. His father's words stayed with him, and he began to wonder if pursuing a friendship, or something more, with Zainab was worth the trouble it would cause. Despite the challenges, Kelechi and Zainab continued to grow closer. They began studying together after school, sharing stories about their lives and dreams. One evening, as they walked home, Kelechi said, You make me want to be better, Zainab. I've been coasting through life, but you inspire me. Zainab felt her cheeks flush. You're not so bad yourself, Kelechi, she said with a small smile. For a moment, they stood in silence, the connection between them undeniable. But neither dared to take the next step, knowing the obstacles they faced. Brentwood High's principal announced an upcoming scholarship contest, with a grand prize of full tuition and a prestigious internship. The news electrified the school, and Zainab immediately set her sights on winning. This is my chance, Baba, she told her father. If I win, we won't have to worry about fees anymore. Kelechi was also encouraged to participate, though he wasn't as enthusiastic. It's not like I need the money, he told Zainab. Then why not let someone else have it, she teased. Kelechi laughed. Because I don't like losing, especially not to you. Their friendly rivalry added a new layer to their relationship, but Zainab couldn't shake the fear that the contest might drive them apart. As the contest approached, tensions rose. Some students, jealous of Zainab's growing reputation, began spreading rumors about her. She's only here because she's poor, they sneered. Zainab tried to stay focused, but the hostility wore her down. Kelechi noticed her struggles and tried to cheer her up. Don't let them get to you, he said. You're better than they'll ever be. But Zainab wasn't the only one facing challenges. Kelechi discovered that his father had plans to manipulate the contest in his favor, ensuring his son's victory for his own selfish benefits and for his reputation. It's for your future, Chief Is said, but Kelechi was torn. Winning unfairly would mean betraying Zainab and himself. When Zainab overheard rumors of Kelechi's father's involvement, she confronted him. Is it true? She demanded, her voice shaking. Kelechi hesitated. I didn't ask for it, Zainab. I don't even want to win this contest. But you didn't stop him either, she said, hurt and disappointed. Their friendship fractured. Zainab threw herself into her studies, determined to win on her own merit. Kelechi, meanwhile, struggled to find a way to prove himself to her and to himself. The contest's first round was a written exam, testing the students' knowledge in various subjects. Zainab aced it effortlessly, while Kelechi barely scraped by. Looks like I have some catching up to do, he joked, trying to lighten the mood. Zainab only nodded, keeping her distance. She couldn't afford distractions, not from Kelechi or anyone else. As Zainab distanced herself from Kelechi, she found unexpected support in Ifunanya, another scholarship student who had also qualified for the contest. Ifunanya was bold and outspoken, beautiful dark-skinned with a classy and elegant aura around her, unafraid to challenge the school's elite. "Don't let them get to you, Zainab," she said one afternoon as they studied in the library. "You're here because you earned it. And trust me, you'll win this contest fair and square." Zainab smiled, grateful for Ifunanya's friendship. "Thank you," she said. "I really needed that." Meanwhile, Kelechi felt the growing gap between himself and Zainab. His friends teased him mercilessly. "You've been ditched by the scholarship girl," one said with a laugh. "Mind your business," Kelechi snapped, but their words stung. He realized he had to make things right, but he wasn't sure how. During the second round of the contest, which involved a debate, Zainab shone once again. Her points were clear, her arguments were researched. The judges were impressed, and she advanced to the next stage. After the debate, Zainab overheard something that made her blood run cold. Kelechi's dad paid off one of the judges, a student whispered. "That's why he's still in the contest." Zainab confronted Kelechi in the hallway. "You said you didn't want to win unfairly, but look where you are," she accused. "I didn't ask for this." Kelechi shot back, his voice laced with frustration. "I told my father to back off, but he won't listen." "That's not good enough, Kelechi," Zainab said, her eyes blazing. "If you really care, then do something about it." Her words hit him harder than he expected, and Kelechi realized he couldn't continue to let his father control his life. The next day, during the morning assembly, Kelechi made a bold move. Standing before the entire school, he confessed his father's interference. "I want to make something clear," he said, his voice steady. "I didn't ask for any favors, and I don't want to win this contest unfairly. From now on, I'll compete on my own merit." The students erupted in whispers, shocked by his honesty. Zainab watched from the crowd, her emotions conflicted. She admired his courage, but a part of her wondered if it was too little, too late. After his public apology, Kelechi approached Zainab in the library. "I meant what I said," he told her. "I'm done letting my father dictate my life." Zainab studied him carefully. "Words are easy, Kelechi. Prove it." "I will," he promised. "Just give me a chance." Though hesitant, Zainab agreed to give him the benefit of the doubt. Their fragile truce marked the beginning of a tentative friendship once more, but Zainab warned herself not to let her guard down completely. As the contest progressed, the school's social dynamics became more tense. Many students resented Zainab and Ifunanya for their success, accusing them of trying to take over. "You're just here because you're poor," one girl sneered at Zainab during lunch. Ifunanya immediately stepped in. "And you're here because your daddy's wallet couldn't fit into another school. Sit down." The cafeteria erupted into laughter, and the bully slinked away, humiliated. Zainab shot Ifunanya a grateful look. "You're a lifesaver," she said. "Always," Ifunanya replied with a wink. Kelechi, eager to rebuild Zainab's trust, invited her to study at a quiet cafe in town. "It's just studying," he insisted when she hesitated. Reluctantly, Zainab agreed, and they spent the evening discussing biology and literature. For the first time in weeks, she found herself relaxing in his company. As they walked home, Kelechi asked, "Do you ever take a break? Do something just for fun?" Zainab shook her head. "I don't have the luxury of wasting time, Kelechi. Every minute counts." "Maybe you should try it sometime," he said with a grin. "Life isn't just about winning contests." Zainab rolled her eyes but couldn't help smiling. Unbeknownst to Zainab and Kelechi, a group of jealous students was plotting against them. Led by Adaora, the class queen bee, they hatched a plan to discredit Zainab by planting stolen exam papers in her locker. "Let's see how perfect she is after this," Adaora said with a smirk. Ifunanya overheard part of their scheme and rushed to warn Zainab. They are trying to frame you, she said. We need to be careful. Zainab's heart sank. She knew Adeabi's clique had always resented her, but this felt like a new low. The following day, a teacher stormed into Zainab's classroom, holding a stack of exam papers. Zainab, come with me, he ordered, his voice cold. As whispers filled the room, Zainab's stomach churned. She was taken to the principal's office, where the papers were laid out in front of her. These were found in your locker, the principal said. Do you have an explanation? I didn't put them there. Zainab protested, her voice trembling. Kelechi, who had been passing by, overheard the commotion and barged in. This doesn't make sense, he said. Zainab would never cheat. But the evidence seemed damning, and Zainab was given a 1-week suspension pending further investigation. During her suspension, Zainab felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her father's disappointment was palpable, though he believed in her innocence. We'll get through this, my daughter, he said. The truth always comes out. Ifunanya and Kelechi worked behind the scenes to clear Zainab's name. They found a witness who had seen Adeabi's clique sneaking into Zainab's locker after school. Armed with this information, they approached the principal. This isn't over, Adeabi hissed when confronted, but her guilt was undeniable. With the evidence presented by Kelechi and Ifunanya, the principal called an emergency assembly. After thorough investigation, we have discovered that Zainab was framed, he announced. Those responsible will face disciplinary action. The students murmured among themselves as Adeabi and her clique were escorted out of the hall. Though vindicated, Zainab's relief was short-lived. That was brave of you, she told Kelechi and Ifunanya after the assembly. Kelechi shrugged. You deserve justice. Ifunanya smirked. And I enjoy seeing bullies get what's coming to them. Despite the victory, Zainab felt the scars of the ordeal. She knew she had to focus harder than ever on the contest. As the final stages of the scholarship contest loomed, Zainab realized just how fierce the competition had become. The remaining contestants were not just smart but strategic. During a study session, Ifunanya warned, you need to stop trusting so easily, Zainab. Not everyone is rooting for you. Her words struck a chord. Zainab had always believed in kindness and fairness, but the contest had exposed the cutthroat nature of some competitors. Even Kelechi, though supportive, seemed distracted. When Zainab confronted him, he confessed, I'm under a lot of pressure to win too. My dad's already planning how he'll use this victory to boost his reputation. The weight of their separate struggles drove a wedge between them once again. One evening, as Zainab stayed late in the library, she was approached by Mrs. Dorojoye, the school's oldest and strictest teacher. I've been watching you, Mrs. Dorojoye said. You remind me of myself when I was your age. Zainab blinked in surprise. Me? Yes, you, Mrs. Dorojoye replied with a rare smile. You have potential, but you're holding back. Let me help you refine your skills for the contest. Grateful for the unexpected mentorship, Zainab dedicated herself to learning. Mrs. Dorojoye's guidance gave her a new perspective, especially on handling pressure and navigating the school's social minefield. Kelechi, feeling the weight of his father's expectations, began sneaking out of his house at night to study in peace. He found an unlikely study partner in Zainab when they both bumped into each other at a 24-hour cafe. I didn't know you came here, Zainab said, surprised. I could say the same about you, Kelechi replied with a grin. Though awkward at first, their late-night sessions became a routine. They challenged each other academically, pushing their limits. Do you think we'll ever stop being rivals? Zainab asked one night. Maybe, Kelechi replied thoughtfully. But for now, I think we're better as rivals who respect each other. Zainab couldn't argue with that. During one of their study sessions, Kelechi opened up about his strained relationship with his father. He doesn't care about what I want. It's always about the family's image, he said, bitterness evident in his tone. Zainab listened quietly. At least you have the luxury of choices, she finally said. For me, this scholarship is the only way out for my family. Their shared vulnerabilities deepened their bond, but it also heightened the stakes. They both knew that only one of them could win the scholarship. "We can still support each other," Kelechi suggested. Until the final round, Zainab agreed. After that, it's every man for himself. Brentwood High announced a school dance, an event meant to ease the tension among the students. Kelechi's friends encouraged him to ask Zainab. "You've been spending all this time with her," one teased. "Might as well make it official." Kelechi hesitated but eventually approached Zainab in the hallway. "Will you go to the dance with me?" he asked, his voice nervous. Zainab stared at him, caught off guard. "I don't think that's a good idea," she replied. "Why not?" "Because people are already talking about us," she explained. "I don't want to give them more ammunition." Disappointed but understanding, Kelechi went to the dance alone, where he found himself watching Zainab from a distance. During the dance, Adaora, still bitter about her punishment, decided to cause trouble. She spilled punch on Zainab's dress and feigned innocence. "Oops. My bad," Adaora said with a smirk. Zainab clenched her fist, but before she could react, Kelechi stepped in. "Apologize," he demanded. "Or what?" Adaora challenged. "If you don't, I'll make sure the whole school knows just how pathetic you are," Kelechi shot back. Adaora, humiliated, muttered a half-hearted apology before storming off. "Thank you," Zainab said softly. "Anytime," Kelechi replied. The scholarship contest reached its penultimate round, a grueling quiz competition. Contestants had to answer rapid-fire questions in front of the entire school. Zainab and Kelechi both excelled, earning spots in the final round. As the results were announced, the school erupted in cheers for the top contenders. But Zainab couldn't ignore the cold glares from some of her classmates. Ifeanyi leaned over and whispered, "They hate you because you're better than them. Don't let it bother you." "I won't," Zainab replied, though she wasn't sure she believed her own words. The pressure of the final round began to weigh heavily on Zainab and Kelechi's friendship. During a lunch break, Kelechi approached Zainab with a suggestion. "I think we should stop studying together," he said. Zainab frowned. "Why? Are you afraid I'll steal your strategies?" Kelechi sighed. "It's not that. I just think we both need to focus on ourselves now. The final round is too important." Zainab felt a sting of betrayal. "So, we are competitors first and friends second." "It's not about that," Kelechi tried to explain, but Zainab walked away before he could finish. The rift between them grew as both threw themselves into preparation, avoiding each other in the process. At home, Zainab's parents noticed her strained demeanor. "Are you okay, my dear?" her mother asked. "I'm fine, Mama. Just tired," Zainab replied, though her eyes betrayed her exhaustion. Her father, who rarely spoke about her education, surprised her that evening. "Zainab, you've made us proud no matter what happens. But don't lose yourself in this competition." His words stayed with her, and she realized she had been so consumed by the contest that she'd forgotten why she started in the first place. Kelechi, meanwhile, faced his own familiar challenges. His father's demands intensified, with endless lectures about how winning would reflect on the family's legacy. Kelechi's younger sister, Amora, offered him solace. "Don't let that pressure get to you," she said. "Do this for yourself, not him." The final round of the scholarship contest was announced, a debate competition. Contestants would be paired to argue against each other on a controversial topic. To Zainab's dismay, her opponent was none other than Kelechi. As the day of the debate approached, tension filled the air at Brentwood High. Kelechi and Zainab avoided eye contact during rehearsals, knowing that their words on stage could make or break their futures. Ifeanyi tried to lighten the mood. "Think of it as a friendly battle," she joked, but neither Zainab nor Kelechi found it funny. The school auditorium was packed on the day of the debate. Teachers, students, and even parents had gathered to watch the showdown. Zainab and Kelechi stood at their podiums, their faces tense but determined. The topic: should academic success be prioritized over extracurricular achievements? Zainab, arguing in favor of academics, began with a compelling opening statement about the importance of education as a pathway out of poverty. Kelechi countered with an impassioned argument about the value of holistic development and how extracurricular activities build character. Their words clashed like swords, each point sharper than the last. The audience watched in awe as the two students displayed not only their intelligence but also their deep understanding of each other's strengths and weaknesses. The judges deliberated for what felt like an eternity before announcing the winner. And the scholarship goes to Zainab Ahmed. The auditorium erupted in applause, but Zainab's victory felt bittersweet. She glanced at Kelechi, who gave her a small smile and a nod. After the event, Kelechi approached her. "Congratulations. You deserved it." "Thank you," Zainab said, her voice thick with emotion. "You were amazing out there." Kelechi shrugged. "Guess it just wasn't my time." Despite their earlier tensions, the moment rekindled their bond. Life changed quickly for Zainab after her win. News of her scholarship spread throughout the city like wildfire. She was interviewed by local newspapers and invited to speak at community events. But with success came new challenges. Her classmates, especially those who envied her, became colder. Ifunanya remained her only constant ally. "You'd think people would be happy for you," Ifunanya said one day. "Not everyone can handle someone else's success," Zainab replied with a sigh. Kelechi, meanwhile, withdrew from the spotlight. Though he congratulated Zainab publicly, he couldn't shake off the feeling of disappointment. One afternoon, Zainab found Kelechi sitting alone in the school garden. She hesitated before approaching him. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey," Kelechi replied, not looking up. "You're still upset, aren't you?" Kelechi sighed. "I'm not upset with you, Zainab. I'm upset with myself. I let my dad's expectations get in my head." Zainab sat beside him. "You're more than this contest, Kelechi. Don't let it define you." Her words struck a chord, and for the first time in days, Kelechi smiled. Zainab and Kelechi began talking more frequently after the debate, rebuilding the bond they had almost lost. One afternoon, Kelechi invited her to a secluded spot behind the school, a small clearing shaded by an old mango tree. "This was my secret escape as a kid," Kelechi confessed. "Whenever life felt too heavy, I'd come here." "It's beautiful," Zainab said, her voice softer than usual. They sat in silence for a moment before Kelechi spoke again. "You know, Zainab, you're the only person who's ever really seen me for who I am, not what I'm supposed to be." Zainab felt her heart flutter, but she quickly masked it with a chuckle. "That's because you're terrible at pretending." Kelechi laughed, his eyes lingering on her a little longer than they should. As the bond between Zainab and Kelechi deepened, strange occurrences began to disrupt the peace at Brentwood High. One morning, Zainab found an anonymous letter in her locker. *, be careful who you trust. Not everyone wants to see you succeed. *. The cryptic message unsettled her, but she chose to brush it off. However, when another letter appeared the next day, this time in her bag, she began to worry. She confided in Ifunanya, who immediately suspected the envious students. "It's probably some bitter classmate who can't handle your scholarship win." But Zainab couldn't shake off the feeling that it was more than petty jealousy. After a late study session, Zainab was walking home when she felt someone following her. She quickened her pace, her heart pounding. "Zainab," a voice called out. She turned to see Kelechi running toward her. "You scared me," she exclaimed. "Sorry," Kelechi said, catching his breath. "I saw you leaving alone and thought I'd walk you home." As they walked, Zainab couldn't help but feel a sense of security with Kelechi by her side. But the unease from the letters lingered in the back of her mind. The mystery deepened when Kelechi discovered a torn piece of paper in the classroom with Zainab's name scrawled across it. The note read, *, she doesn't deserve it. I'll make sure she knows her place. *. "Kelechi, what's that?" Zainab asked, noticing him freeze. He hesitated before handing her the note. "This is getting serious," Kelechi said. You need to report this. But Zainab shook her head. I can't. It'll only make things worse. Kelechi wasn't convinced. He decided to keep an eye out for any suspicious behavior around her. One night, Zainab was awoken by the sound of something tapping against her window. Nervous but curious, she peeked outside and saw a shadowy figure disappearing into the darkness. The next morning, she found another note pinned to the door of her house. This one read, asterisk, you can't outrun the truth. Asterisk. Frightened, she called Kelechi, who came over immediately. Who could be doing this? She asked, her voice trembling. We'll figure it out, Kelechi assured her. But first, you're staying safe. I'm not letting you walk around alone anymore. As the days passed, Kelechi became Zainab's unofficial bodyguard, walking her to and from school and sitting with her during lunch. Their closeness didn't go unnoticed by their peers, sparking rumors that only fueled the drama. I think people are starting to talk, Zainab said one day, half joking. Let them, Kelechi replied, his tone serious. I don't care what anyone thinks. Zainab looked at him, her heart racing. For the first time, she saw something in his eyes that made her feel vulnerable yet safe. Why are you so kind to me? She asked softly. Because you deserve it, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. While their bond strengthened, the mystery of the letters took a surprising turn. Zainab received a new note, but this one was different. Asterisk, I've admired you from afar for so long. But I can't let you ignore me anymore. Asterisk. Zainab's confusion grew. Was this a new person, or had the sender's intentions changed? If Inanna theorized it was someone in their class. Maybe they're jealous and in love with you. A twisted combination. Kelechi was less amused. Whoever it is needs to stop messing with you. But deep down, he couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that the sender might be closer than they realized. Zainab started to feel as if eyes were constantly on her. At school, she noticed a figure lingering near the library where she studied. At home, faint footsteps echoed in the distance during the evenings. One day, Kelechi caught her staring out of a classroom window, lost in thought. Zainab, what's wrong? He asked. She hesitated before whispering, I feel like someone is watching me. Kelechi clenched his fists. That's it. We are going to find out who's behind this. Determined, Kelechi roped in Ifunanya. Together, the three devised a plan to catch the mysterious sender in the act. The plan was simple. Zainab would leave a decoy note in her locker, pretending to respond to the admirer. The note hinted at a secret meeting location behind the school gym at dusk. Ifunanya hid behind the lockers, ready to see who took the bait, while Kelechi positioned himself near the gym to confront the person. At exactly 6 p.m., a shadowy figure emerged near the gym. Kelechi's heart pounded as he stepped out of his hiding spot. Who are you, and what do you want with Zainab? He demanded. But the figure bolted, disappearing into the woods before Kelechi could get a good look. The failed trap left the group frustrated, but Ifunanya had spotted something unusual. I saw them near the lockers, she said. I didn't see their face, but they were wearing a school jacket. That narrows it down, Kelechi muttered. The three began discreetly observing their classmates. Suspicion fell on Chima, a quiet boy who often sat at the back of the class, doodling in his notebook. I've seen him staring at you before, Ifunanya said. Zainab felt uneasy. I don't want to accuse anyone without proof. Kelechi, however, was already planning their next move. Zainab received another letter, but this one felt more ominous. Asterisk, stay away from Kelechi, or you'll regret it. Asterisk. She showed it to Kelechi and Ifunanya, her hands trembling. This isn't just about admiration anymore, Kelechi said. This is a threat. Ifunanya frowned. Do you think it's Chima? He always looks uncomfortable when you and Kelechi are together. Kelechi nodded. We need to confront him. But Zainab wasn't so sure. What if it's someone else, and we're just wasting time? The uncertainty gnawed at them all. During lunch, Kelechi decided to confront Chima. He approached him at his table, where Chima was sketching in his notebook. "Chima, can I talk to you for a second?" Kelechi asked, his tone firm. Chima looked startled. "Oh, sure." They stepped outside, and Kelechi didn't waste time. "Have you been leaving notes for Zainab?" Chima's face turned red. "What? No. Why would I do that?" Kelechi studied him carefully. The nervousness in Chima's eyes seemed genuine, but he wasn't convinced. "If I find out you're lying," Kelechi let the threat hang in the air before walking away. That evening, Zainab couldn't shake the feeling of being followed again. She quickened her pace, clutching her bag tightly. "Zainab." She spun around to see Kelechi running toward her. "Relax, it's just me," he said. But before she could respond, a loud crash came from a nearby alley. Both froze, their eyes darting toward the source of the noise. "Stay here," Kelechi said, moving cautiously toward the sound. Moments later, he returned, shaking his head. "No one's there." But Zainab couldn't ignore the sinking feeling that the danger was closer than ever. The next morning, Zainab found yet another note in her locker. This time, it read, "You'll see me soon. I'm closer than you think." Fueled by anger and fear, Zainab decided to take matters into her own hands. During class, she noticed Ezin, a classmate who often glanced her way. Ezin's seemingly innocent demeanor suddenly felt suspicious. After class, Zainab approached her directly. "Ezin, have you been leaving notes in my locker?" Ezin looked shocked. "What? No. Why would I do that?" The denial left Zainab frustrated, but the pieces still didn't fit. Kelechi, still determined to protect Zainab, came up with a bold idea, sneaking into the suspected students' desks after school to look for evidence. While searching through Chima's desk, they found nothing suspicious. However, in Ezin's desk, they discovered a small, locked diary. "Should we open it?" Kelechi asked. Zainab hesitated but nodded. "If it has answers, we need to know." Inside, they found pages filled with angry rants about Zainab's scholarship win and her closeness to Kelechi. One entry read, "She thinks she's better than us, but I'll show her." Zainab's hands trembled as she held the diary. Kelechi read through the pages, his jaw tightening with every word. "She's been watching you all this time, jealous of your achievements," he said, his voice low with anger. Zainab's heart sank. She had always tried to be kind to everyone, including Ezin, who often seemed reserved. "She was always polite to me," Zainab murmured. Why would she go this far? Kelechi clenched his fists. Jealousy doesn't need a reason. The next day, they decided to confront Ezin after school. Ifunanya joined them, standing by for backup. As Ezin walked out of the school building, Zainab stepped in front of her. "We need to talk." Ezin's eyes darted nervously. "About what?" Zainab pulled out the diary. "This." "Care to explain?" Ezin froze, her face pale. "You had no right to look at that. You had no right to threaten me." Zainab shot back, her voice trembling with emotion. "Why, Ezin? What did I ever do to you?" Ezin's expression shifted from fear to anger. "You're always so perfect, Zainab. The scholarship, the teachers praising you, even Kelechi. You have everything while the rest of us fade into the background." Ezin's confession left everyone stunned. "You think this justifies scaring Zainab?" Kelechi demanded. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," Ezin cried. I wanted her to know what it feels like to lose something." Zainab's voice softened. "Ezin, I don't have it all together like you think. My family struggles to make ends meet. I work hard because I have no other choice. You didn't need to hurt me to prove a point." Ezin's eyes filled with tears, but Kelechi wasn't ready to let her off the hook. "You're going to the principal. This has to stop." Ezin begged for mercy, but Zainab, though hurt, chose to show compassion. "We won't report you," she said, her voice firm. But if this happens again, I won't hesitate. Word of Ezin's action spread quickly, and she became the subject of whispers in the hallways. Zainab, though shaken, tried to move forward. She focused on her scholarship preparations and her growing bond with Kelechi. One afternoon, as they studied together in the library, Kelechi reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm proud of how you handled Ezin," he said. Zainab smiled faintly. "I just want peace, Kelechi. I've had enough drama to last a lifetime." But as much as they tried to leave the past behind, something darker loomed on the horizon. Weeks passed without incident, but Zainab couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was watching her. Late one night, as she walked home, she noticed a dark figure standing under a street lamp. Her pulse quickened, and she clutched her bag tightly. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice echoing into the night. The figure didn't move. Zainab turned and bolted, her heart pounding in her chest. When she got home, she found Kelechi waiting on her porch. "You're late," he said, concern etched on his face. "I think someone's following me again," Zainab whispered. Kelechi's expression darkened. "We need to figure out who's behind this, for good." The feeling of being watched didn't go away. Zainab's anxiety grew, but she didn't want to involve Kelechi too much. Still, he refused to leave her side, determined to protect her. "I think we need to take a different approach," Kelechi said one afternoon as they walked home together. "We've been chasing shadows for too long. We need answers." Zainab nodded, but deep down, she couldn't shake the dread that had been following her for weeks. As they reached the gate of her house, Kelechi's phone buzzed. He checked it, his face going pale. "I got a message," he said, his voice tight. "It's from an anonymous account. You've been looking in all the wrong places. The truth is closer than you think." Zainab felt a chill run down her spine. "What does that mean?" Kelechi looked at her, his expression grim. "I think we're not dealing with just one person. Whoever's doing this is playing a game with us." That evening, Zainab couldn't sleep. She lay awake, her mind racing, thinking about every person who had been part of her life at Brentwood High School. Suddenly, it clicked. The one person who had always been there but never seemed to be fully in the spotlight, Chima. Zainab sat up in bed, heart pounding. She quickly texted Kelechi. "I think I know who's behind this." Minutes later, Kelechi arrived at her house, and Zainab explained her thoughts. "Chima. He's been watching me for weeks. He's always around when I least expect it. I should have noticed earlier." Kelechi nodded. "Let's confront him." The next day, Zainab, Kelechi, and Ifunanya met at the library after school. Chima, as usual, sat in his usual spot, scribbling in his notebook. They approached him cautiously. "Chima, we need to talk," Zainab said, her voice steady despite the tension building inside her. Chima looked up, startled. "About what?" "We know it was you," Kelechi said, his tone cold. "You've been leaving the notes, sending the messages. What's your problem?" Chima's eyes widened, and he stood up. "I didn't. I wasn't." "You were jealous, weren't you?" Ifunanya accused, crossing her arms. "Jealous of everything Zainab has that you don't." Chima looked defeated. "You wouldn't understand," he muttered. "I wanted what she had. I wanted the attention. I've always been in the background, but everyone's always focused on her. I thought if I made her afraid, she'd notice me. But I didn't mean for things to get this far." Zainab felt a mixture of anger and sympathy. "Chima, you don't have to tear someone down to be noticed. There's room for all of us to succeed." Kelechi stepped forward. "This ends now. If we ever hear of anything like this happening again, we won't hesitate to go to the principal." Chima nodded, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The drama that had plagued Zainab's life for months finally came to an end. Chima apologized to Zainab, though she wasn't sure if she could ever fully forgive him. Kelechi, ever supportive, stayed by her side as they navigated the final days of the scholarship contest. Despite the challenges, Zainab's focus on her studies remained unwavering. The day of the scholarship results arrived, and Zainab was nervous, but Kelechi reassured her. "You've earned this, Zainab. No one can take away what you've worked for." When the results were posted, Zainab's heart skipped a beat as she saw her name at the top of the list. She had won. "I did it," she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. Kelechi pulled her into a hug, lifting her off the ground. "You did it, Zainab. You deserve it all." The aftermath of the contest brought Zainab and Kelechi even closer. They had endured so much together, and their bond grew stronger every day. Zainab's success became a symbol of hope for everyone at Brentwood High School. Zainab, after facing the consequences of her actions, took responsibility and began to rebuild her reputation. Though their relationship was strained, Zainab saw the potential for change in her. As for Chima, he never fully regained the trust of his classmates, but he worked on making amends, learning to value himself without resorting to destructive jealousy. Zainab's family situation began to improve as well. Her scholarship helped alleviate the financial pressure, and with Kelechi's support, she started to dream bigger than ever before. Sitting under a tree with Kelechi one afternoon, Zainab smiled softly. "I never thought I'd be here, Kelechi. I never thought this would be my life." Kelechi grinned. "You earned every bit of it, Zainab. And we're just getting started." As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Zainab knew that this was only the beginning of her journey, one where she would never let fear, jealousy, or secrets hold her back again. The world was hers for the taking. Moral lessons. 1. True strength lies not in tearing others down, but in lifting them up while rising with them. 2. Jealousy blinds us to our own potential. Embrace your journey, and let others shine without dimming your own light. 3. No matter the obstacles, your dreams are worth fighting for. Keep working, stay focused, and success will follow. 4. In the face of betrayal and hardship, find the courage to forgive and the strength to move forward. 5. You don't need to fit into anyone else's mold to succeed. Be authentic, work hard, and your success will be your own. 6. It's not the challenges that define us, but how we rise above them and turn them into opportunities for growth. Thank you for listening to today's story. If you liked it, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to African Stories Corner for more amazing stories. Don't forget to click the bell so you know when the next story is out. Now, here's a little taste of what's coming next. Picture this: a bride left all alone on her wedding day. Her groom runs away to be with his ex, who is having his baby. But there's a big problem: if she doesn't marry someone else in just one day, she will lose all her family's money. She has no choice but to marry a stranger she just met. But guess what? That stranger is secretly a billionaire. What will happen next? Find out in the next exciting story on African Stories Corner. Don't miss it.